Attribute number 4, preferable presence, part 2. Meditation number 19, waiting on God versus forfeiting grace. Psalm 73, 25-28. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For behold, those who are far from you will perish. You destroy all who commit adultery against you. But as for me, the nearness of God is my good. I have made the Lord Yahweh my refuge, that I may tell of all your works. What is wonderful about this attribute? We can always count on God's grace being more powerful and satisfying than anything in the world. In the airport one day, I overheard a woman talking about how disappointed she was at a Michael W. Smith concert because it was so boring. She said she expected some costume changes, dancing, and a light show, not preaching. I paid big money to be entertained. I don't want to be bored. The splendor of the gospel is not enough for her, but a light show would do the job. She prefers a costume change to the majesty of heaven. When I heard her talking, I was struck with two things. One, what unbelievable insanity, and two, oh, how like her I am. I know intellectually that God is more marvelous and more satisfying than a costume change or a seductive image or watching TV when I should be about His work. But my heart is drawn to the worthless instead of Him. In my free moments, so often the last thing on my mind is, oh good, I can spend a couple extra minutes with God. What effect would it have on your heart if you were to consciously experience God's preferable presence today? Experiencing this attribute. How do you know if you are using God to get earthly pleasures, which is idolatry, or using earthly pleasures to enjoy God, which is worship and love? One way is to watch what happens when there's a choice between earthly pleasures or the presence of God. When the husband comes home from war and his wife can enjoy his presence directly, she should lose interest in the mailman altogether. This is what makes the existence of sinful pleasures useful. They present us with a clear choice so we can see what our hearts prefer, because choosing the sin means forfeiting nearness to God. Jonah 2:8. Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs. If David would have preferred closeness with God over sexual sin, God would have given David more and more until it was enough to satisfy David. 2 Samuel 12:8. The term would have is tragic. By preferring sin, David forfeited that which would have been plenty to satisfy him. So when there is a clear choice between earthly pleasure and God's presence, and we prefer the earthly pleasure, then we know our enjoyment of that earthly pleasure is both idolatry and adultery against God. Food, physical sensations, rest, fun, amusement, prestige, respect, interesting thoughts, pleasant company, all are mailmen carrying wonderful messages about what the great sender is like, and all are paramours that draw us into unfaithfulness if we enjoy them without paying attention to the giver. O Lord, forgive your idolatrous, adulterous servant. Have mercy upon me. Do not give me over to those evil desires. Depose and crush the idols of my heart, that I may be fully devoted to you. Make me a one-desire person. Open my eyes to the truth that there exists only one desirable thing, only one reality that can actually satisfy my soul. And let that result in an intensification of my desire, that I might be consumed with desire for you. Let every hunger pang, every sexual urge, every impulse to do or get or take anything increase my desire for you. When those desires are fulfilled, let that make me long more deeply for the fulfiller behind them. When they are not fulfilled, let that make me long more deeply for the only one who can and ultimately will fulfill them. Think. When you resist temptation, are you only rejecting evil? Or do you do it as an act of preferring, wanting nearness to God more than you want the pleasure of that sin? Promise to trust today. 2 Samuel 12:8. I gave you the house of Israel and Judah, and if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more.